Hi, everybody. Welcome to the very first episode of One Cold Take. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for joining me. I cannot tell you the amount of times that I have scripted, rescripted, recorded, and re recorded this podcast. It's actually insane. So, this has been a long journey in the making. I also decided to send out a few demos, hoping for good feedback, but to my surprise, what I got back was that my podcast had no drama, no excitement, wasn't crazy enough, wasn't loud enough. It was basically boring. So, like any rational human being, I went back and I decided to change everything. I added more outrageous comments, more drama, having over the top, exaggerated reactions. And I sat down and I listened to this new scripted podcast, and it was comical. I cringed so hard that I actually laughed out loud because I sounded crazy. I'm not theatrical at all. I'm not loud. And I realized it was a facade that I created to kind of please the masses. And that's the thing. The podcast that I created in that moment was exactly the kind of podcast that I didn't want. I started all of this because I really enjoy reading Reddit stories from the notorious Am I the Asshole to petty revenge and all the in between. And there was a moment a couple of years ago when I realized that there were podcasters out there reading the Reddit stories, which got me so excited. And I subscribed and I listened to them all the time, especially in the kitchen, when I'm cooking. And those who know when you're in the kitchen and you have this really cool thing in your ear, really does make time go fast and you really end up enjoying what you're doing. But the moment was short-lived because these podcasts turned into basically word vomit. There was no reason or rhyme to what the host was saying. It soon turned into podcast about the host's personal life, and then adding friends as a kind of low-key flex on the life they were living, from drinking games to using cooking ingredients as lube, which blew my mind. And kind of made me angry because spreading what I call harmful hacks was wild. And in between all the noise, there was a few Reddit stories, so I switched off. It made me kind of sad because, like I said, it was a routine to switch on these podcasts and keep on doing what I was doing, but it just turned out to be so loud and having these crazy comments and back and forth banter with the host and guest in my ear was just, it was too much. It was frustrating. I didn't know what to do except start my own podcast. So here we are. I wanted to start a podcast that was formed by the community of Reddit for the community of Reddit. And I know that that sounds crazy, but I think that it could be really cool. So, this podcast will be for those who want to listen to the Reddit stories told exactly as they were written. No ifs, no buts, and definitely no coconuts. I will try my best to give advice that I think is fair and compress all the comments into that advice. My hope is that those who are listening find a little joy, a little comfort, some good advice, and I think I'm going to ramble on if I don't cut it off now because I am nervous. So leave the, oh my goodness, I don't want to say leave the advice because I've gotten such bad, but I'm gonna say it. Leave any advice, any feedback you want in the subreddit, called One Cold Take. I'm very nervous. I'm very excited. So, without further ado, let's get into it. I am your host, Jane Reddock, and this is One Cold Take.
Nothing to me. You mean nothing to me.
So nervous. Okay, so I'm just gonna get straight into it. The very first story that I have was sent to me by a friend. It was posted 7 hours ago on the screenshot that I have. The post has, however, been deleted. I think it's about 2 months old, and it's coming from the subreddit, The Notorious Am I the Asshole? And the title is I outed my closeted uncle after he shamed me for being gay. I, 25 male, came out to my family at 20. Most were cool, but my uncle Dave, 45 male, has always been a little bit weird about it. Constantly making comments like, you don't have to. Oh, there is a helicopter that, or an airplane. What is it? That just went over my house. So, BRB. And they said that there would be no drama in this podcast. Look at all that drama. Now I have beef with the plane. Where was I? Has always been weird about it, constantly making comments like, you don't have to act so gay, or when I was younger, men kept that to themselves. I shrugged it off until last week. At a family dinner, Dave started going on about pride parades are just pervs wanting attention and how real men don't flaunt it. When I called him out for being homophobic, he smirked and said, your generation's obsessed with labels. Why can't you just be normal? Here's where I might have been the asshole. I'd suspected Dave wasn't straight for years. He's always been oddly fixated on my dating life, and once I even spotted him on Grindr. I recognized his torso tattoo in a not so safe for work pic. I never said anything until now. I snapped. That's rich coming from you, a guy who's on Grindr every weekend. How's that working out for you? Silence. Then my aunt, who was shocked. She had no idea. Dave went pale, knocked over his wine glass, and left. Later, my mum texted me, you humiliated him. Was that really necessary? Now, some of my family members are on my side, but others say outing him crossed the line, even if he's an asshole. I'm torn. He's been nasty to me for years, but I know how dangerous it is to out someone. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack. I'm gonna jump straight into the comments and then give my one little cool take. So it was kind of difficult to find comments on that post or under the post that was deleted. The one that I did find, however, I related to the most. Sadly, OP also has some issues with his mother to deal with. Later, mum texted me, you humiliated him. So she just kind of comments what OP said in the original post. So she has sat back for 5 years as a brother slash brother-in-law humiliated her son, and yet the second he fought back, he is the problem. There are also a couple of comments saying that Dave lived in a different era and was suppressed and couldn't come out. So now he's kind of saying that it should be like that for everyone. And I agree, and I can relate to everything all the comments are saying. What I like to do is put myself in both shoes, the Davy and OP. So for Dave, he was definitely in a different era, and being gay was very taboo, and you had to keep it private, and it was considered classier, if I could say it that way, classier to kind of hush hush and dress like a man and talk like a man and not pretend that you're in love with a man. So there's a lot of jealousy, a lot of rage, a lot of anger, and sadness. So, in a sense, I do feel for Dave because he was brought up in the way that feels kind of bully or be bullied. Like I said, not an excuse. I do think that everyone's the asshole and no one's the asshole because of how everybody was raised. So with OP, I felt that he could have pulled Dave aside into a corner and showed him the grinder and said, listen, I'm sure that it must be hard, but you don't get to take it out on me. And it ends now. Either you are going to continue, and there's going to be a moment where I snap and I tell everybody that you're a raging homosexual. But at the same time, the reason why I feel this way is because there was someone else in the middle who got hurt indirectly by what OP did. because he stooped down to Dave's level, and now you have two bullies, and you can't take that back. You can't take things back that you say in anger, and that's the problem. The aunt got hurt. Dave's wife was clearly shocked, and her reaction, she didn't know. So I can imagine that she must have just wanted to jump in a hole and disappear, because this was kind of hardcore. And I get that OP has been having a hard time, but stand up for yourself means standing up for yourself in so many other ways where it doesn't compromise your character or your moral integrity. And I think that that was just a dick move. You shouldn't have done it. I get that anger plays a big role, but it is what it is. It is done. I think that people got hurt when they shouldn't have. And I do hope that when all is said and done, I mean, this is in my delusional state, and I'm always trying to find the good in situations. But I hope that OP and Dave can kind of sit together and come together and say, okay, this is what's bothering you, and this is how I overcame it. Or OP can say, give him some tips and be like, hey, it's out in the open now. Come with me. I'll show you a couple of cool spots, and have some bonding, and teach him how to be um confident and secure, and be happy to and proud to be who he is. So, what is my cold take? Everyone's the asshole, and no one's the asshole. So, see, super exciting. But yeah, it's a shitty one, but everyone's the asshole. And now that you know me a little bit better, the next story that I'm going to jump into is actually a segment I want to introduce into the podcast called OP Told Me. I'm not dead set on the name, so if you have any name suggestions, let me know. What I want to do is go back to those unupdated posts, whether it be from Am I the Asshole, Petty Revenge, whatever subreddit. I want to find really cool stories that don't have updates, and try and get in contact with the OPs directly and get the updates from them, which is exactly what I did with this story. And I don't have a title, so I'm just gonna jump straight into it. I'm not sure if it was posted, like I said, on Am I the Asshole or Advice Needed. I, 33 female, am married to my husband, 38 male, and we love and appreciate each other so much. My in laws have a garden, not at their house, but there are places all over the city with gardens you can rent. So that's what my in laws did for the last 32 years. The garden looks amazing, and we love it so much. Last year, however, my father in law came to me and said that he's getting a little bit too old to keep the garden alive. So, my husband and I offered to take over the upkeep of the garden. My father in law was very happy and said yes, and that we would do paperwork at a later stage, as my husband and I didn't want my father in law to feel as if it wasn't his garden anymore. Now, my sister in law, let's call her Sally, 43 female, has a son. He's 9 or going to be 9. 2 years ago, she celebrated her son's birthday in the garden. And to make a long story short, the kids painted the trees, took all the flowers to give it to their mum, and kids were allowed to climb on the trees and ended up breaking several branches. This was heartbreaking because two of those trees my father-in-law had for almost 30 years, and they were completely damaged. My father-in-law was furious and very sad. Sally didn't help him restore the garden, nor did she take any responsibility. This year, she wants to celebrate in the garden again. Sally sent me a message, and it said, "Hi, I just wanted to inform you that Alex is having his birthday party in the garden next weekend. I showed the message to my husband, and he called my father-in-law, who told him I was going to tell you about this, but I didn't give her permission. So naturally, I messaged Sally and said, no, you can't celebrate in the garden." No response. We already knew that she would try and pull this, because she's been going around saying how beautiful the garden is to celebrate parties in. The problem is, this weekend we are going to be celebrating my in law's 50th anniversary. It's a surprise. That's why my father in law didn't straight up tell her no. I already sent out the invitations and she knows. So I reminded her. And she said the anniversary is on Sunday and she wants to celebrate on Saturday. I said no, because who's going to clean up everything in one day? She said that she sent out the invitations already, and I'm kind of lost. My husband said that she could celebrate somewhere else, and she said, okay. I didn't believe her because I didn't hear anything from her for the entire week. So I texted one of the friends she invited on Saturday and I said, hey, are you coming to the garden for the birthday on Saturday? And she said yes. That was today. Any advice? So clearly the post has been up for a while because OP does get a bit of advice here and there because she does have a mini update where she says, thank you everyone for the advice. Some of you suggested that I set up everything a day before. Some of my husband's cousins and friends who are invited offered to help. I told one of his cousins and she was mad, saying this is what Sally always does and it's so frustrating. This cousin is also invited to the birthday party, and sister-in-law, funnily enough, invited everyone after I sent out the invitations for the anniversary. So she might have done this on purpose. I definitely think that she did it on purpose. It was she seems a bit unhinged. So another little follow-up, and she says, sorry, not a follow-up, a comment, and she says, unfortunately, the gate is too low. So I'm assuming someone said just lock the gate, and she responds to that, and she says, the gate is too low. Even when you lock it, you could easily climb over it. She also says that I didn't give you the full extent of the damage caused. But some children left cake near the garden beds, which only attracted more bugs. Unfortunately, we only realized it when the harvest was already eaten. They left the garden in a horrible condition. So the cousin that I spoke to texted Sally saying, I talked to OP and she said the birthday party is not going to happen in the garden. Sister-in-law blew up my phone with nasty messages saying it's her parents' garden and I can't do anything. I reminded her that last year we spoke about the garden and I asked her if she wanted it. Also, she doesn't help out financially, so basically I told her no. My husband, who's standing next to me, took the phone and told her if she keeps up the harassment, she's uninvited from the anniversary. 10 minutes later, she posted on Facebook about the upcoming birthday party of her son and how she's so excited to be celebrating in the garden. Some of the cousins joked and said maybe we should sleep in the garden from Friday to Saturday to make sure that if she or any of her guests show up, they won't be let in. It started as a joke, but now even more cousins and friends want to join. We're talking about 12 people, which is fine because the garden is about 7,500 square feet. They promised to be quiet, and now they want to bring a projector, have a movie night, and a barbecue. My husband and I might join them because we haven't seen them in a while, and spending some time with them would be really nice. Sister-in-law is not invited and doesn't know about anything. I will update everyone next weekend. Thank you all for the advice and help. And this is where the post was taken off. So I can't really find any comments underneath. And I want to give my little cold take, but because I know too much of the story already, I don't want to give anything away. So this is when I reached out to OP and she said, yes, you can use it for your podcast. I had no idea that people could be so entitled. So this was just between OP and I, but I will read it anyway. And she says, so maybe my story will help others. My husband and I and a few friends and cousins slept in the garden from Friday to Saturday. We watched movies and meeting everyone, catching up was such a fun time. And we actually realized that we needed to spend more time together with family and friends. And we decided that every Saturday at the end of the month, we will all join up in the garden, and I'm so looking forward to it. For the update, so 10 a.m., Sally arrived with friends, even with her own decorations for tomorrow. She had all the party stuff, all the party bags for the birthday party ready to set up. Her face, however, turned pale the moment she realized what was going on. Of course, she started to freak out and argue with everyone. She then yelled at me and said I was trying to sabotage her. My sister in law's exact words were, "You're trying to make me look like a bad mother." My husband's cousins tried to talk to her, explaining that the last time she celebrated her son's birthday in the garden, everything was a complete mess. She said that's what kids do when they have fun, and she would clean it up. When she realized that she couldn't convince any of us, she decided to call and complain to my father in law, who then called my husband. My husband then pulled his sister aside and spoke to her. After what felt like forever, he came back and a huge smug smile on sister in law's face. She said, loud and satisfied, "The party is happening. I'll get the rest of the stuff from the car." My husband told us we should all go and he will explain later in the group chat. You could see the disappointment in their faces. We packed up our stuff, said our goodbyes, and left. Here's the thing, my husband is the perfect villain. I just didn't know how evil this man could be. So, in the car, he said, "You'll see her tomorrow for the anniversary," and she promised to decorate and clean. He texted in the group chat that at the end of the day, it's still his nephew and he doesn't want to see him sad. Later that day, Sally posted pictures and videos of the party. I'm pretty sure there were over 20 kids. I was already scared, but I focused on the next day and I decided to pick up the cake and the food for tomorrow. And the plan was the next day that everyone arrived 2 hours before my in laws, Sally, who would pick them up and bring them to the garden. My mother in law knew about the plan, but we wanted to surprise my father in law because he hasn't seen any of them in years, and some of the guests are coming from different states, and his sister is actually coming from abroad. We arrived and the garden looked a complete mess. We were horrified. There was cake everywhere. They smeared it into the trees. Why would you do that? It seemed that sister in law or one of the kids had bought a box of crayons, and one of the kids must have thought using them on the garden house would be a great idea. There was trash everywhere, from toys and empty packets of candy. And they even ruined my father in law's beloved hydrangeas. They didn't cut but ripped off many flowers and roses. You could see the guest's face when they arrived, from happy to shocked to anger. There was no decorations like sister in law promised, and I don't think I need to tell you how angry my husband was. The guests tried to clean up, but my husband said no. As he wanted his parents to see what she did. Some didn't agree, but mostly the older folks. But finally, they left it as is. My in laws arrived without my sister in law. She told her father there was a surprise in the garden and he should stop by. So she basically ruined the surprise as well. They were so happy and surprised to see everyone, but the more people they greeted, the more mess they noticed. An hour later, sister in law arrived. We were fully convinced that she wouldn't dare come, but she did. She was doing herself no favors, and when she greeted an uncle or an aunt, they immediately started to ask her what happened and how she could let this happen. She tried to defend herself, but people weren't buying it. She said it wasn't her job to decorate, but one of the cousins said, "But it was your job to clean up." My husband said loud and clear, "Didn't you yesterday promise me to clean and decorate the garden?" She had the audacity to lie. My husband said, "You had one job, to pick up my parents, but you didn't." She said, "No, that's a lie too." That's when mother in law said, You were supposed to pick me up. We spoke about it over the phone last week. Her face went pale, and people started to call her a liar, and how her actions and the garden speaks for itself. It was a mess, like I said. Some were accusing her of not respecting her parents. Then there were others who defended her, saying she's just a mother and she might not have done it on purpose. Shortly after she left, everyone cleaned up the garden. With 32 people, it didn't take long at all. We had a blast. It was so much of fun. And in the midst of it all, my father in law pulled me aside, gave me the biggest hug, and said, "Thank you for an unforgettable day." This just warmed my heart because it's exactly what I wanted. Unfortunately, we couldn't save the plants and the vegetables because the garden needs some time to restore. I'm also helping my in laws, and as a little surprise, I bought my father in law brand new beautiful hydrangeas. My sister in law Sally didn't apologize or offer help. She, however, is no longer allowed to have any parties in the garden, and we will transfer all paperwork for the garden to my name. OP attached a beautiful picture of the flowers. I'll try and post it in the subreddit. There's no comments. I don't think we need to get into comments because that was quite a satisfying, happy ending. OP should allow Sally to come and visit and join in family anniversaries and parties in the future, kind of to rub salt in the wound of saying, hey, you can enjoy it, but you'll never get to enjoy it hosting on your own. And that's just me being petty, but that was a satisfying end. Also, once again, OP, thank you so much for taking the time to give me the updates and share the story. And I hope that you and your family get to have many more wonderful, magical sunny days in the garden. Okay, and jumping straight into the next story coming from the best of Reddit updates. It was posted 8 days ago, and the original post was posted on the 8th of June. It does have a couple of trigger warnings for child neglect, traumatic experience for a child, and descriptions of violent behavior. So please take care while listening. Saturday night, I came home around 6 p.m. and my husband called me saying that he was supposed to pick up his daughter, 5 years old, from her mum, but he's stuck at work, so her mother would drop her off at our place. I said okay, and I was watching TV expecting them to arrive soon. Around 8 p.m., my dog started barking, jumping at the window, and when I went to see what was going on, I noticed a little ripple in the water. I went outside and saw the little girl in the pool, and she was unconscious. I pulled her out, and she wasn't breathing. I called the ambulance while trying to revive her. Thank goodness the ambulance arrived within 10 minutes, and I genuinely thought she drowned. But thankfully, they managed to save her. She was completely okay. The thing is, I had no idea that her mum already dropped her off. She didn't knock or anything, so she probably just left her in the front of the house. Her mum also came. She found out and she was trying to blame me, telling me I tried to murder her daughter. I already told my husband that they didn't knock or enter the house. I had no idea the girl was there. Everything became more messy. Basically, the woman kept yelling at me, telling me how she's going to fight me, and things like how she's going to hold me underwater so I see how it feels. First of all, if it wasn't for my dog barking at the window, I would have no idea the girl was in the pool. And she would have drowned because I had no fucking idea that the moron dropped her off in front of the house without even knocking. I said this and she spat at me. The police ended up holding her back. Then my husband came and it was just so shitty. After this, I got calls from her parents and they also tried to threaten me on the phone, but I just shut them down. I know, or at least feel like it's not my fault, but I want to clarify more. I forgot to say that I do have a fence around the house in the backyard and it's usually locked, but that day it wasn't, which is my fault. Also, I said, this is my house. This was the first time the girl was here, so I had no idea why her mum would just drop her off in front of the house. She's never been to, and no idea why the girl went to the pool when she couldn't see it from the street. Why did she go to the backyard? I'm not blaming her, I'm just explaining. Also, my country doesn't have laws for fences directly around the pool. There's usually just a cover, but I wanted the water to get warmer and I didn't put the cover on. I don't live here, but I am currently renovating. Oh, this is a tough one. Oh my goodness. Especially when kids are involved, everything becomes so complicated and very sensitive. But I'm grateful that the cover wasn't on because that would have been so much worse. Because once you're trapped in there, you kind of trapped in there and whoa. Okay, so let's jump straight into the comments. The first one says, obviously, thank goodness your stepdaughter is okay. Not the asshole. Don't say whether you didn't say whether your husband was backing you up or not. And OP responds, he is. Another comment is a 5-year-old lives at your house but can access the pool if they dropped off in front of the house. And OP responds, she doesn't live here. Um, the rest of the comments aren't really doing much. So let's jump straight back into. Oh wait, there's one more response from OP. I don't know why. Why didn't I'm okay. OP's German, so there is a bit of a language barrier. I'm gonna read it exactly like she wrote it. Hopefully, we can get a bit of an idea of who she is. I don't know why. Didn't her mum wait for her to enter? I started referring to her as girl because it's shorter to write. She does, okay, so that's why she says girl all the time. That was a question of mine as well. She doesn't live here, and the pool has been here for more than 20 years. It's perfectly legal. I never thought anything of it. And I say she's German because she does post a little comment and says I'm German. So let's go straight to the update, which is the next day, the 9th of June. Um, since my post had a lot of views and comments, I feel like I should post a final update. I won't fully go into details, but my husband spoke to his daughter. I still haven't spoken to her or seen her since, and he asked her what happened. So they arrived to the back of the house and not actually to the front because they thought that was the front, which is fine. Still, the mum did just drop her off and drove away. She was going to knock on the door and come inside. Thankfully, neighbors' cameras actually caught one side of the car, and it's very obvious that the car stopped for not more than 30 seconds. And since it caught the driver's side, the driver is visible, who was the mum. And she just left her kid and drove away. Crazy. So the girl said that she was going to knock on the door, but she saw a frog in the grass by the pool and wanted to pick it up and bring it inside. Gate for backyard was open and she went inside. Frog was running away from her and fell in the pool. She tried to reach the frog and fell in herself. Even though what happened was horrible, thankfully she's okay now and it didn't cause any serious damage. I already said in my previous post the gate was unlocked. Even worse, she walked in through the other side, which is completely open. Thankfully, the pool wasn't covered because if she stepped on the cover, it would literally trap her inside. I feel really bad for what happened, knowing that part of leaving the gate open was my fault, but at least the worst outcome didn't happen. I won't share any more about anything related to the situation with the mum and the police. Holy shit. Okay, that could have ended up so badly. I hope that Opie takes the necessary steps to protect herself and her family. I'm gonna see if there are any comments. There actually are. There are a few comments. So let's jump into that. not the asshole. The child should never have been dropped off without her mother making sure that she got inside safely. Please get locks and additional safety measures for the poor and give yourself some grace. And Opie responds, I will always keep the fence locked from now on. That's sweet. I will always keep the fence locked from now on. This is from OP. The mum doesn't really interact with me. If I text her something about her daughter, she just leaves me on scene and answers through my husband. I guess she doesn't want to see me or whatever, but I don't understand how she can willingly leave her kid with someone she doesn't even want to interact with. Another comment says, wow, so she knows she was the one who almost killed her kid and still had the nerve to blame you and spit on you. She abandoned a 5-year old in front of a house neither had ever been to and just drove off. True, very true. Worst, another comment says, worse, actually at the back of the house rather than the front. And OP responds and she says, the back looks similar to the front, so I get that she didn't see, but the gate was open, so she saw that. That was crazy. There's another comment that says, WTF, I'm 50 years old and I still watch as my friends enter the house when I drop them off. It's not even worth going through any of the comments. I think that OP should just cut contact with the mother. If she wants to communicate via the father, then do it. I mean, that's their kid, their relationship. OP should try and form a bond with the kid, if they're going to be in each other's lives. But there's a lot of underlining shit with the mum. But fuck me, that could have ended up so badly. I'm so happy that the kid is okay. And I hope that the father puts in some major boundaries and rules for the blended family. I do wish them the best of luck. And Opie seems to be very remorseful, even though she did absolutely nothing wrong. But yeah, I really hope that the boundaries are set and rules and communication is clear. Opie sounds like she's going to be a great stepmom. I hope that that bond forms and the mum doesn't poison the kid, but I do have a feeling we might be getting a few more updates on this one. I will try and reach out to Opie and keep you guys updated as well. I'll put this one in the pin for now. I'm just glad that the kid is okay, and OP will definitely put in some safety measures from the sounds of it. But all right, guys, moving along. Okay, so I'm gonna jump straight into my favorite subreddit, Petty Revenge. So, guys, what you will see is from time to time, I won't read the title because I think it kind of gives a lot away and it loses that shock value. So I'm going to jump straight in. So about 5 years ago, my cousin, who was stationed in the airbase, decided to live with us. He loves to shop around, and according to him, things are cheaper down here. So one day he came to me and asked if I wanted to drive down an hour to pick up a bundle of 12 to 2 copper wires. I can't remember the quantity, but it must have been more than 15. At the time, we were working on our house doing small projects and we saw how prices of things were creeping up. So he wanted to buy them before they got insanely expensive, which they did. So we drive down about an hour and the seller texts and tells him the deal is off and someone else is paying top dollar. My cousin is pissed off at this point and we drive back. He asks me to stop at the local convenience store to buy a couple of beers. He was angry and he was bummed out. So I told him, what if I make the seller drive up an hour to make him waste his time? Not long ago, I bought something off OfferUp as well, and the Home Depot we met up came to mind. So I texted the guy, offered close to full price for them. He got excited. He replied seconds after every text. He texted me saying he's at Home Depot, and I blocked him. He messaged my cousin and asked, "Are you still interested?" My cousin said yes, but for slightly less. Drives wires to my house, uploads it for my cousin, and leaves. Cousin wasn't sad anymore. Okay, that's super cute. Like I said, I'm not the type of person to exaggerate or have like really crazy reactions, so my storytelling might be a little bit bland. So I might work on it. If you want me to, let me know in the comments below. Okay, so that will be all the storytelling that I do for today. I do have a really a gut-wrenching post that I saw a couple of days ago that I wanted to put in this podcast, but I think it was kind of hectic. So I'm gonna leave it for the next episode and hoping that you will join me. This has been absolutely insane. I feel I'm still shaking a little bit. I know that there's a lot of things that I did wrong and my editing isn't great, but I will learn and it will get better. And like I said, Reddit will shape this podcast. I will definitely be having some experts on the show. I'm gonna have some guests. It's gonna grow. In the meantime, please leave any suggestions, any advice, things that you feel will make the show a little bit more fun, what I can do better. I'm giving you homework on the first show. So I just want to say thank you so much. Also to the people that encouraged me and helped me and gave me the confidence to do this. This was so out of my comfort zone. um, to two of my best friends, Tracy and Unati, who just encouraged me and gave me support, and my brother with his crazy comments here and there to give it light. I really appreciate it. But I also want to say thank you to my partner who set everything up for me, who stayed up with me till 2 a.m., who listened to everything and gave great advice. And to the person who commented on the One Call Take intro song, I actually made that myself with the help of my partner who gave me the software to do it. I actually created that myself. So the comment was, sounds like AI schlop. And I kind of take that as a compliment because it took me a while to get those beats and put them together and kind of make it rainy. So thank you very much. But in all, guys, thank you so much for joining me on the very first episode of One Call Take. I appreciate it more than you know. Take care, stay safe, and see you next time.